Good evening and welcome to the 2025 online AGM for Retina UK. Thank you very much for joining. This is an important meeting in our calendar and I appreciate the time you're spending with us. I'm going to start by just mentioning that there is the opportunity to put questions to the panel being me. I'm Cathy Evans. I'm the chair of the trustees. Ashley Grist, who is the treasurer, and Tina Garvey, who is, of course, the chief executive of the charity. If you look at the bottom of the screen, there's two options of relevance here. You can either raise your hand or you can put a question in the Q&A section, and that question would be read out, and we'll deal with any questions in any other business at the end of the session. If we can't answer the question today, we will follow up and give you a proper answer later on. So I want to just reflect on what an important year this is. This marks 50 years since the charity began. And so this is a good opportunity to reflect on the past year, but also the years before. And we've reached a really quite incredible point in our journey. And I most particularly want to thank our supporters, researchers, the volunteers and staff, because the last 12 months have been full of progress. We've continued to fund groundbreaking research that brings us ever closer to treatment and cures. We've expanded our information and support services, helping individuals and families navigate the challenges of living with inherited sight loss. And we've continued to raise our collective voice, calling for better accessibility, better understanding, and better futures for all affected. And of course, none of this is possible without you, our community. So whether you're a person living with inherited sight loss, a family member, a researcher, a fundraiser, a volunteer, or a supporter, you are Retina UK, and your energy, insight, and resilience shape what we do. And I want to thank you for all the things that you do for us. So going back to 1975, a small but determined group of individuals, many of whom were living with inherited sight loss themselves, came together to provide mutual support and to fund research into rare conditions. And at the time, they were very misunderstood, and there was very little going on in terms of research. But they had a vision for a better future. And I'd like to pay particular tribute to who we might think of as the parents of Retina UK, Linda Cantor, who is now president of Retina UK, and Professor John Marshall, who remains a trustee of our board. So thank you for being part of our past. Thank you for helping shape our present. And I hope that you'll be involved with Retina UK into the future as well. I will now turn to the more formal part of the meeting and record that a number of people had wanted to be here but can't. So I would like to note apologies from Vanessa Foster, from Professor John Marshall, from Luce Worthington, and from Keith, who Martin Kirkup, who was the previous chair. And also Colin MacArthur had to leave to catch the ferry back to the Isle of Wight. You will have had access to the minutes of the previous AGM, the annual general meeting of 2024. They're online and they are an accurate summary of the business transacted last year. And there was a vote at which 47 people approved the minutes, one person abstained. This means that we're safely quorate and the annual report, the previous minutes are accepted. I'd now like to turn to our treasurer, Ashley, who is going to present the annual report and accounts for the year ended December 2024. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Kathy. I'll briefly present the annual report and accounts. The backdrop for fundraising in 2024 continued to be a tough economic climate and cost of living challenges for individual households. We were pleased, therefore, that total income closed at £2,170,849, which was 69% more than the previous year, due in large part to generous trust income and one grant in particular of £720,000 for medical research. Legacy income was £367,947, broadly in line with the average amounts received over the past 5 years. Much of our income is usually from voluntary sources, the key elements of which are the donations and fundraising efforts of individuals and groups across the UK. In addition to this, we receive vital funds from corporate and trust donors and are also privileged to receive a number of legacies. The trustees are very much aware of the unpredictability of all these sources of income and the need to continue to develop all the income channels. As always, we very much appreciate the efforts of all of those who give us support. We continue to provide information and other support activities for our community, spending £575,474 on these activities in 2024, which is a 2% reduction versus the prior year. We approved grants of £343,526 for medical research, which was half that of the prior year as the trustees take care to invest behind quality research projects. Retina UK now has an active portfolio of 10 research grants, and if these progress to plan, then a further £1 million will be required to fund them through to completion. As a result of the income received and activities undertaken in 2024, there was a net increase in funds of £514,505, driven primarily by the increased income. And at 31st December 2024, our total funds were £2,042,464. The charity's investment policy remains unchanged. For any funds surplus to short-term requirements, we consider using secure deposits on fixed terms of up to 1 year, and the charity holds sufficient assets on our balance sheet to cover future potential grant commitments. Finally, you will see in the annual report document that the financial statements have been audited by AZ's Audit Services, who confirm they give a true and fair view of the charity's affairs. They've been properly prepared in accordance with the UK accounting standards and with the requirements of the Charities Act 2011. So I'm pleased to be able to recommend the annual report and accounts for the year ending 31st December 2024 to the members for adoption. And with that, I'll hand back to Kathy.
Thank you, Ashley. There are 2 relevant votes here that I would like to report on. The 48 members have agreed to the adoption of the annual report and accounts. There were no abstentions and no votes against. There were 47 votes in favour of agreeing to the appointment of AZ's Audit Services for next year, 1 abstention and no votes against. So that takes us on to our presentation of the Retina UK activity in 2024 and 2025. And I think that this is a good opportunity to first thank Tina for the work that her staff does. But the next bit of the agenda is about the changes to the trustee board. And there are a number of trustees who are standing again, and they are Roger Backhouse, who is serving another term, and that was endorsed by the membership with 48 votes, no abstentions and no negative votes. Simon Keithley, again, 48 votes in favour, no abstentions and no negative votes. Ashley Grist is the treasurer that you've just seen explain the accounts. Similarly, has been voted back by the membership, 48 votes, no abstentions and no negative votes. And Vanessa Forster, who has also been voted back in with 46 votes in favour and 2 abstentions. So all are very safely quorate, and I look forward to working with all of them in the future. But we are losing Luce, who has been a fantastic trustee, and I would like to thank her very much for all her very thoughtful contributions over many years. So thank you very much, Luce. That leads us to any other business, and I believe there is a question that has been asked, and or 2 questions actually. Matt, would you be able to voice the questions?
Of course, it is just the one over 2 parts. And the question is, given that bungee jumping carries a risk of retinal detachment and other health risks, can we stop promoting it on the website? I believe this is in relation to fundraising events.
Well, thank you. Thank you to the questioner. And I think you raise an interesting matter. But as an organisation, we recognise that some adults do enjoy taking part in extreme sports whilst raising money for their chosen charity. And the view of Retina UK is that a doctor should be consulted before an individual takes part in such activities, but it's not the role of Retina UK to determine which activities are suitable, and that the decision does have to rest with the individual concerned. I hope that answers the question. That is something we've worked on over a while. I understand the concern, but that's the position that Retina UK takes. Are there any other questions, Matt?
No, that's all for this evening.
Okay, unless there's any other questions, I think that the meeting can be called to a halt. The minutes will be produced with customary speed and accuracy and will appear on the website. But I'd like to thank everybody for joining the AGM tonight. Thank you very much.